Thanks for joining me today. I have Layne Dalfen, who is the dream analyst with me. And I will tell you, this is going to be one heck of a ride. Um, Layne is hilarious, cracks me up.
It's
Uh,
Laney.
Laney,
It's Laney.
Laney, my apologies. Um, so I asked previously how I should introduce. And so I said, "Do you want me to talk about, professionally what you do?" And Lainey said, "This is what I do. I am the dream analyst." But really, we're so much more than that. And you'll see by the end of this video that Lainey is so much more than just a dream analyst. So, Lainey, I want to jump right in. Can you start by telling us, how did the dream analyst begin?
Oh, that's funny because it just fits perfectly with the so much more that you were talking about. I'll begin by saying that I'm a dreamer, and I've been a dreamer my whole life. And my late father, bless his heart, he wasn't the kind of dad that when I had a nightmare would come into the room and say, "Oh, it's just a dream, go back to sleep." The opposite, he engaged me, and he would always encourage me to talk about the dream. So he didn't even realize it, but he was already setting the stage for the problem solving that we are doing. And in fact, once he would hear a nightmare when it was time to go back to sleep, instead of saying to me, "It was just a dream," the opposite, he would say to me, "Now, as you're falling asleep, I want you to say to yourself, I'm gonna have a nightmare. I'm gonna have a nightmare. Bring it on. I'm ready." And of course, I never had a nightmare when I would go back to sleep, because dreams are kind of like that. And so when I was 20, by the way, I just turned 71 last week. So we're talking about
Happy
50
belated
years.
birthday.
Thank you. We're talking about 50 years ago. I gave birth to my first daughter, who was born with Down syndrome. It was actually just 2 weeks after my 21st birthday. So we're coming up on 50-year anniversary. And at the time, she was born with Down syndrome. And at the time, 50 years ago, most people did not bring their Downs babies home. And so I had time to think, because Tina was born at 3 pounds, so she didn't come home anyway. And it was during that period of time that a doctor who I trusted said, "You should give her up. Hurry up, go home and get pregnant again. Don't think about it. Don't talk about it." And I followed his advice because I trusted that doctor. And not too long after, it makes sense that I landed in psychoanalysis, and luckily with a brilliant New York Freudian analyst who had recently moved to Montreal. And so that's what happened. That's my foray into dream analysis happened because of personal reasons. I wasn't so well able to articulate my feelings in my early 20s, but I used to arrive to the sessions with a shrink, always with a dream. And that was where I first learned that actually, not only are we problem solving in our dreams, this is the most important thing I'm going to say, but a dream is an interior conversation that takes place between your conscious and your unconscious mind. And we are problem solving. The dream is triggered by something that either happened to you yesterday or something that you thought about yesterday. And the solution, this is the great news, the solution to the issue appears in your dream before you get it consciously. So if only you could understand what the heck you were saying to yourself when you had that crazy dream, you would be able to propel your problem solving. And so I could give you, if you like, the dream that started me down this road, because when I was 30, somebody at the university said to me, wow, if you love Freud, you will love Frederick Perls. And I ended up becoming a Gestalt counselor. And through that experience, I learned how Frederick Perls looked at dreams. And then when I turned 40, I said, what about Adler? And I went to the Alfred Adler Institute to specifically study dream analysis from an Adlerian perspective. And then I became a member of the C.G. Jung Society. So I am eclectic in my approach. I developed a method, a 6-point of entry method that anybody can use to uncover why you had that dream last night. And once you know why you had that dream, there's 2 goals. The first goal is to find out why you had that dream, which the method lets you know. And once you know what you were discussing with yourself when you had the dream, the second goal is for me to teach you what a solution looks like when it comes in the form of a metaphor. So now that I said all that, I'm going to set the stage. So I'm going to tell you 50 years ago, after I was in therapy for maybe about 2 months, 3 months, I started having a series of freight elevator dreams. And the freight elevator dreams for me, because you cannot look it up in a book, the freight elevator dreams for me is, that's me saying to myself, I don't feel like I have my ground. Why? Because a freight elevator is this big, wide space that has a big, wobbly floor. And in the dreams, I'm always by myself. So it's got that wobbly floor where I don't feel like I have my ground. And the space is so big and I'm alone. There's nowhere to hold on to. And so I teach at the university in Montreal. And I've been teaching there for over 20 years. And whenever I tell this dream, I always ask the people in the class, what is your solution to the freight elevator dream? And I'll get some people say, I'm going to sit down. And somebody else will say, well, by the way, what's your solution to the freight elevator dream? If you're in that big wide space with a wobbly floor, what do you think your solution would be, John?
So I was actually going to ask you the same question. So thank you for asking me that question. So here's what I interpret based off what you've told me so far. When you're saying that dream is your interpretation that you don't have, that you're not grounded, to me, that solution would be, if that's how I'm interpreting that, I have to look around at my life and find out what path am I going down that is going away from my core values. And
Love it.
I have to get back to the base of who is me, what defines who I am.
And that was the trigger of the dream, because I followed that doctor's advice. But a couple of months later, I realized this is not working for me. Where is my daughter? Who is she? I gave birth. I need to see her and know who she is. And so the solution to the freight elevator dream for me, like somebody else, I just want to add, might say they would push the emergency button. So that's a reflection of a kind of personality who has no problem asking for help. And somebody who wants to sit down, that's a reflection of a style of personality that when, excuse the expression, that when the shit hits the fan, that person doesn't respond right away. They stop and they think for a minute. So your solutions always reveal your over-exercised aspect of your personality, how you would normally respond. And so for me, the solution to the freight elevator was A, to invite people in the elevator. Because if you invite people into the elevator, you've put weight on the floor and it stops wobbling. And you've also closed up the space so there's people around you. And as for who to invite into the elevator, for me, and I want to illustrate to you how sophisticated our unconscious mind is, because it's not random. It's never random who and what appears in your dream. The freight elevator linked me directly to my father, because when I was a little girl, my dad used to take me to the warehouse with him on the weekends, and there was a freight elevator there. And it used to make me a little anxious, but I always felt okay because I was with my dad. And so that's how the link is so rich. It's absolutely the same thing as your computer's motherboard. And so that freight elevator taught me that I want to invite my parents into the elevator with me in a metaphoric, figurative way. I invited them into the discussion, and they ended up coming with me to find where Tina was placed. And I never did bring her home, but I did bring her into my life. She was actually a huge part of my life and the 3 daughters that followed. And so that was the beginning for me when I realized the sophisticated problem solving that we are doing in our dreams. That was it for me. I was on the road to looking at other fathers of psychology and how they problem solved through dream analysis. And my intention to teach this message to as many people as I possibly can. So I think I want to tell you what the 6 points of entry are in the method, because anything we talk about after this will always include those 6 points of entry. They are the symbols, the feelings, the puns and play on words, because we use pun and play on words in our waking life, in our dreams, as much as we do in our waking life. The repetition, the plot, and did I say the symbols?
You did.
And the action. So action dreams are like I was trying to run, but my feet would not work.
Yeah.
Like that. And a play on word or a pun is when I hear a dreamer say to me, because I am always writing like a maniac when a dreamer is speaking, because I don't want my language. I want the dreamer's language. So you might hear something like, I had to go to the washroom and I couldn't find a washroom, but finally found a stall. And I got into the stall, but I couldn't get out. And that's a play on words, because I'm going to ask that dreamer, what are you stalling about these days? So before I go deep, because I love going deep, but before I go deep, I always want to know the surface. And the surface is, the dream is always triggered at the surface by something you either thought about yesterday or something that happened to you yesterday. And so if I get to the surface, same as if we were digging for gold, I would first have to know, where is the gold? And the surface reason that you had a fight with your wife yesterday, or you're aggravated with one of your kids, once I know the surface reason, it's my marking place to where I would want to dig deeper. Because your response to today's situation and who aggravated you, or what situation you're going through in your life, your initial response comes from your past. And so you can problem solve on the surface but you can also dig deeper for long-term change when you understand why it is that you respond the way you do.
Okay. So just a quick question. The parallel there of the freight elevator, is it the same when I've heard people, and I've experienced this myself, talk about these dreams where like a lack of gravity. I don't know if I want to go as far as to say in the dream they can fly, but it's a lack of gravity sensation, and it's a weird, like almost euphoric feeling, but you can like float. Like, is that the kind of the same
I
thing?
love that dream. I love that dream. And I have that dream when I'm so in, I have like 4 daughters and 3 granddaughters and a very sweet husband, but it's a stage for for opportunities to get too in, sometimes where I don't belong. And so if I am too emotional or too involved about a subject, and I need to step back and take a wider view, that's a beautiful situation where I might have that dream that you're describing, where I'm like floating because I want to get a wide view. And that is my unconscious. That dream is actually an example of a solution appearing in a dream, encouraging me to step back when
Okay.
I'm too in. So that's always what you want to look at. May I give you, I want to give you what I think is one of my all-time favorite dreams. And it also, anybody that hears me say this dream, that's my doggy, Lukey. Sorry about that bark. It gives you, you're going to understand right away the mirror of the dream and exactly what I'm doing. So this woman had a 1-picture dream that she got a brand new puppy. And it's funny because Lukey just barked at the perfect time. And she's so excited about this new puppy. All she really wants to do is look right in his eyes because he's so new. And so she picks the puppy up on the table in front of her where she can actually look at him eye to eye. And she's so excited. And all of a sudden, the puppy makes everywhere, all over the table. It's a big mess. It's all over the table, all over her arms, big mess. And so I used the plot and the feelings as a point of entry, the plot and the feelings. And I said like this to the dreamer, what do you think happened in the last couple of days? Some situation that started off brand new and you were so excited about it. And all of a sudden it took a very rotten turn for the worst. She got it immediately. She said, it's the job. I started a brand new job and now I've been there 4 days. And it turns out the boss is a really abusive guy. And he's been crapping all over me. So now we understand the puppy, the feelings, and the plot about what happens. And so I have 9 different ways of solution finding in a dream. My personal favorite, which I use whenever I can, is to take the story of the dream outside to your waking life and solve the puzzle outside, which is what I did. I asked her, if you really had a puppy and you really put him up on the table and he really made all over the place, what's the solution? And she said, well, the first thing I would do is take him off the table. That's the first thing. And because we are discussing language, and she had already used a play on words by the accident that happened and talking about her boss. So I asked her, when you say take it off the table, what does that mean for you? And she said, oh, when I take something off the table, I'm done. I am not negotiable. I'm done. And so because she understood her language She left my office and quit the job. She took it off the table.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't remember your dreams, this is a message to anybody listening. You don't have to remember your dreams. You're problem solving anyway, and you're going to get it anyway, but maybe it's going to take you a couple of weeks. She got it the same day she had the dream, because she came for a session and understood the mirror. The mirror, when you find it, is identical. And I'm saying this after 50 years. So I'm saying it with confidence. It's unbelievable how exact the reflection is. It's stunning, actually, when you look at the dream and you look at your situation, how perfectly they are reflected.
Yeah, this is, I knew that this would be a fascinating conversation. So you said you've told us how it started, how you became the dream analyst. So can you talk us through that period of time from when you first got started with this to, I don't want to jump 50 years into the future to where we are today, but that there's a lot that happened in that 50 years. Can
Right.
you talk us through that?
Right. So I only became public about this in 1997. I opened up, so it's only like, I'm so bad in math, 1997.
26 years.
There you go. 26 years ago, I went public with it. And it was also because I had a dream that I worked through at a conference of the International Association for the Study of Dreams, where I have been a member for that long. And I had a dream at that conference in Asheville, North Carolina, that had so many layers to it, I had to write a book. It was like ridiculous. I had to write a book. So I opened up the Dream Interpretation Center, and I wrote my first book, which at the time was called Dreams Do Come True, but it's now called Have a Great Dream. And today it's book 2, because my daughters run in age. Tina is not with us anymore, but if she was, she would be 50 today. So my daughters run from 50 all the way down to 30. There's a 20-year spread between my kids, and they all come from me.
So you say that there's a 20-year spread, but in terms of age, how far apart are they?
Well, my youngest is 30. She
Okay.
just turned 30. And
Right.
so they are, Tina would be 50. My daughter Lisa is about to turn 49. I had her a year later. And my daughter Chelsea is 47. And then there was Emma.
Yeah, so there's the
My
real gap
idea.
right there. So you had
Yeah, I had an
essentially
afterthought at 40.
Okay.
Imagine my husband's surprise, because really I had the afterthought at 35, but it was a 5-year discussion that I won.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
Yeah. But I was
and
going somewhere with it. Oh yeah. And so I had a dream. My dream was about Emma Jo, about the daughter who is 30 now. But at the time, she was like 4. And I was away in Asheville studying dreams and presenting at a conference during a period of time where my husband Andy was looking after her, and she got the chicken pox, and I wasn't there, and so it started a dream, and I call it the Emma Jo dream, turned into a book, and it's that 30-year-old daughter who a few years ago in 2018 one day said to me, I love your book, Mummy. It's like a great book, but it's 350 pages. You could tell she's from another generation. Can't you say what you have to say in 100 pages so that people could just pick it up and know how to do it? And that became the beginning of Have a Great Dream, Book One, the overview. It's 100 pages. And if you read it, you'll know exactly how to do this. And that's why the book I wrote, 26 years ago is now called Book Two, because once you've finished Book One, if you want to look deeper into the subject of dream analysis, you could pick up Book Two and learn more about it.
And where do they pick these books up if they want to buy them?
Amazon, or if you want to buy the ebook, you can get it at TheDreamAnalyst.com or HaveAGreatDream.com. Same title as the book. And they takes you to the same site. And I sell the ebooks right from my own site.
Okay. So you've had a lot of chapters in your actual life book. You've appeared in some pretty famous places. Do you want to talk about that?
I've spent the last 2 years writing the Dreamcatcher column for Oprah. And I've had a great time doing it. And the Oprah column is, I don't get to ever meet the dreamer. I get a dream, and what I do in the column is give you a series of hypotheses so that if you had a dream like that, all the different ways you might possibly have triggered a dream like that. And I also have a column in Psychology Today, which I've also had for more than 2 years, called Understanding Dreams. And that one is different because each column is a verbatim transcription of my conversation with a dreamer. So you get to see the back and forth process of how you arrive at the meaning of the dream and how you arrive at the solution.
Okay. How often you've met other dream analysts in your time, correct?
So many.
Okay. How often do two different dream analysts evaluate something differently?
Well, the whole point is only the dreamer knows what the dream is about. May I ask you, could you tell me very quickly, what are the first 2 or 3 things that come to your mind? I need a pen. What are the first 2 or 3 things that come to your mind when you think about a cat? Do you like them?
Yeah, I like cats. Orange is the first thing that comes to mind because I like orange cats. Um,
Any
and
special reason?
because I think they're just a little more unique. I don't see orange cats all the time, and so to me that yeah, I just in so a little
I love it.
deeper on
I
that.
love it.
I
You don't even,
also go ahead.
no, but you don't even really have to go deeper because you already gave us the farm.
Okay.
Because so you don't see it very often and they're unique to you. And so we would be, if you had a dream about a cat, I would right away be looking for what situation has gone on in your life in the last week or so that you actually like, but for its uniqueness, there's something, a situation that you are experiencing that's different than what you've experienced before, and you're actually liking it. So I know a little bit about you because I already love you. So I know a little bit about you, and you could be dreaming about a cat, all about this Zoom stuff that you have started doing because it's fairly new and you really like it. Now, my daughter, Emma Jo, loves cats, but she is highly allergic. They're not good for her. So years ago, when she was on the dating scene, she was dreaming about a cat because she was dating a guy that she thought she was in love with, but he wasn't good for her.
Ah, that's
So
powerful.
yeah, and me, I don't really like cats. So you cannot ever look it up in a book. You have to talk to the dreamer to find out what your personal associations are. Why? Because every single memory and association that you have ever had since you're born is filed away. I mean, I'm older than 50, so I call it a filing cabinet, but other people call it a database because it's all in that database. And when you go to sleep at night and you want to say something to yourself, the filing cabinet opens up, and wherever you have cats filed, you're going to choose something out of that file and you'll use it as a metaphor. It's your language.
That makes perfect sense. And yeah, it's funny because I preparing for this, I was thinking about that. I'm like, man, like I don't remember a lot of my dreams. I cannot remember the last time I had a nightmare. I had any kind of dream that really woke me up. But as a kid, of course, you have them all the time. And so I attribute that to, just being full of fear and uncertainty as a child.
I love it.
And, so, I mean, is
And,
that, is
and
that accurate?
yes, and it's not only accurate, but I want to put something on top of that, which is your lack of control. So, for example, my parents are not here anymore. And even though my mom was born in Montreal, I don't care. In my mind, she was European and my father was Romanian. So for me, they were both European parents because she was brought up by Europeans. So if my father, who was so wonderful, but what a temper he had, and if he was yelling at me when I was 6 or 7, I was not allowed to look up at him and say, excuse me, I don't like how you're talking to me right now, because that would have been considered very disrespectful and I would have landed up in my bedroom.
Mhm.
And so what, where am I going with this? And so just give me one sec.
That's okay.
And so it's we don't have control when we're children. And where am I going to go with those feelings about not being able to express myself to my father? I wasn't able to express myself. They go to your dreams and you have the nightmare, and the nightmare is a very healthy thing because it helps create a balance. And we are self-regulating organisms. So whatever you are underreacting to in your waking life, the dream is going to overreact. It's the exact same thing in a physiological way when you have to go to the washroom. You have to pee. You can hold it in, hold it in, hold it in, but at a certain point, you have to pee. And so that's how it works about feelings. When we're children, we don't always have the space and place to completely express ourselves. And so because we have that lack of control, hence we have more nightmares because the stuff needs to get out. And that's how it gets out. So a nightmare is not a bad thing. A nightmare is a good thing. It's a
Okay.
healthy thing.
That is very enlightening and eye-opening. I think you know this about me. I do a lot of volunteering with veterans, helping military folks transition to a civilian career. And in a lot of cases, we do end up having some discussions about, some of the things that they still dream about are nightmares from things that they lived through. And that your explanation is super helpful
It's
to assist with them in terms
right.
of how to deal with that, how to process that is, to deal with it and to process it.
Right. And well, I don't want to leave this discussion without taking you deeper. And since I mentioned my dad, I'm just going to go there and finish that piece, because it's true for all of us. When we come into the world, so I'm going deep now. When we arrive in the world, we arrive here whole. We have a plethora of potential. We can be shy, assertive, a hero, a chicken, selfish, giving. We could be an initiator. Maybe you're the initiator who's always calling people to get together. Maybe you're the person who's always on the receiving end of the phone call. So we have all this possibility. And the people that bring us up teach us that it's better to be one way than another way. So we become over-exercised, is what I call it, in some aspects of our personality, and under-exercised in other. This is why I was talking earlier about staying surface, so you can find out where it is that you want to dig for the gold. So, for example, 40 years ago, when I was studying at the Alfred Adler Institute, one day, I don't want to say that I had an argument with my husband, because it's more true to say that he had an argument with me. And he's just like my late dad, so freaking sweet and kind, but what a temper. And so he raised his voice at me. And what did I do? I did my knee-jerk, over-exercised part of my personality. And I stayed quiet, the same as I would have if I was 7 and he was my dad. And so that night I went to sleep and I dreamed about an aunt of mine who at the time was already dead for like 15 years, but using a symbol's point of entry, which you and I just did about a cat, I asked myself, what comes to mind when I think about that aunt? And I will give you the same answer now as I did like 40 years ago. She had the biggest mouth of anybody I ever met in my life. She was so assertive. And if she didn't like you, she had no problem letting you know about it. And so she appeared in my dream. She's what Carl Jung would have called my shadow, one of my shadows. She appeared in the dream. She is not only the solution to the current surface issue with my husband. I knew you're not going to, I'm not here to say that change is easy. I am here to say that change is possible. And so what you want to do is look at these characters that appear in your dreams, because I needed to lean in to that behavior. So I'm not going to be that big mouth overnight, but because I understood why she appeared in the dream, it allowed me to practice just a little bit of her. And when I woke up in the morning, I said, could you please not raise your voice to me like you did last night? It makes me feel like I'm 7 and I'm with my dad. So that is what I call my first time in the gym, exercising my voice. But that was like 40 years ago. So I've been exercising that muscle. And I must tell you that today, my kids, my husband, because we are powerless. And this is another very important message that I want to send out, especially, I mean, it's happening in Canada, but it's happening in such a big way in the United States. This concept that you have the power to change somebody else or their opinion. You have zero power over changing somebody else, but you are all powerful about changing yourself. And once you change yourself, like I did when I exercised my voice, it's so shocking how you notice all of a sudden how the people around you, they change. Because my sisters, my brother, my kids, all the people around me started learning, don't start up with her. She's not afraid to answer you back. because I exercise that part of myself. And I don't think Andy has opened up his big mouth to me in at least 35 years because he knows what he's going to get. And it really is long-term change is available to you. And you never want to judge your knee-jerk response. There's not a judgment here. And my biggest message is there's no right, no wrong, no good, no bad. I am always asking myself about appropriateness. Am I responding to today's situation in the most appropriate way that I can? And so if I go visit a bank manager because I want money from him and I don't like his tone of voice, my knee-jerk over-exercised part to shut up is the perfect appropriate response. But if my husband or my kids open up a mouth to me, I don't want to sit there like I'm frightened and I can't speak. So I need to access. And so my biggest job, John, that I think my biggest job is to give every single person I meet a huge grab bag of responses to waking life situations and all the unbelievable array of different things and people that come into our lives. And you don't want to be stuck with your knee-jerk response. How boring is that? You don't want to turn 70 like me and still be responding with the same response that you had when you were 20.
So are there any dreams that are just dreams, or does every dream mean something?
They all mean something. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's disappointing because I have a reoccurring dream that my former dogs who have passed away, they come back and they play ball with me. And um, so what does that mean?
How do you feel in the dream? I'm using
Happy.
a feelings point of entry.
Oh,
Happy.
yeah, happy because I love these dogs.
Okay. And so if that was my dream and I'm having a particularly difficult time in the last couple of weeks, I might dream about those dogs because that would be me lifting myself up out of the muck. And sometimes, just like a horny dream, often I'll say it's like, I call it take that feeling and run with it. So when you have a dream about dogs, the dogs that you knew and that you loved, and they make you happy, you want to take that feeling and run with it. Because, like, for example, during COVID, so many of us were so down that it's almost like you forget what it feels like to feel good. And sometimes you need a reminder. And I liken it to a sexual dream because you might forget about sex and then find yourself feeling horny and you need to take care of business. And the way that that happens is you get a reminder in your dream. You'll have a sexual dream and you wake up the part of you that you need to wake up.
Okay. Well, that's a heck of a transition there. So I think it's safe to assume in several of these Zoom interviews I've done, I've teased at my wife's expense because my wife doesn't watch anything I do. She doesn't read anything I write. And I tease her about this and she just says, I'm busy. So I'm assuming Andy also does not have a YouTube channel. He doesn't watch YouTube.
He doesn't.
Okay, I assumed as much when you were so vocal about him not running his mouth to you.
Oh, he knows all about it. Yeah, he knows all about it. He's very supportive, actually.
Oh, good. Well, yeah, based on what I know of you, I can only imagine that your four daughters are as open as you are and as outspoken as you are.
They are.
Yeah, and I will say, as a father of daughters, thank you for raising confident women because I think the world needs more of them. And this gift that you have, it's got to be one heck of a party favor. So when you go places, do people
Oh,
hit you up?
yeah. Yeah. So one of my funny stories is walking on the beach in Florida with Andy, obviously in bathing suits. And some people, like from Montreal, who I happen to know, passing by on the beach. And of course, the minute they see me, it's like the dream lady.
Hmm.
So already start sharing a dream, and Andy looking at somebody who we know and saying to him, "Do you have like a Visa card on you?"
Yeah,
You got your Visa card? Because Andy's always ready for the payment. He's like the business side of me.
that's awesome. That is really great. So, how do people track you down if they want to hire you for an event, if they want your expertise? What's the best way for
I
them to get a hold
love
of you?
I love speaking, and I'm totally fine about traveling to speak, but I must say I do a lot of meetings. They are called a Dreaminar, and I trademarked the name Dreaminar, which is kind of what you and I have been doing here today, except if we had people in the room here with us, they would have the opportunity to be asking questions. And so I do Dreaminars at libraries and in businesses because we are problem solving. And so creative problem solving, there's no better link than dream analysis to helping teams in businesses. And so you can always find me at TheDreamAnalyst.com or haveagreatdream.com. That's how to find me.
Awesome. And I will put all of the links to your social media pages as well as your website in the comments of this video. And I'll also share them everywhere the video is shared. And of course, I would encourage you to share them as well, Layne. I see you on Instagram. I see you every day. So I think your message is definitely getting out there. And I hope that this video can serve as just one more method for people to learn who you are, because every single time we talk, you make me smile, you make me laugh.
I'm happy with that. That makes me so happy.
I love the fact that you just say whatever you want to say, whatever you're thinking.
Not
And
everybody likes that about me.
well,
But
then
I'm glad you do.
well, if they don't like it, they don't deserve you. So I'm thank you for what you bring to the world, because there are other people like me that hear you and they smile. And so thank you for doing that. I know I'm grateful, and I can't wait to get this video out there so that others have a chance to get to know who you are, and maybe talk about some dreams with you. Thank you again
Thank
for
you so
joining me.
much, Sean. You're a wonderful guy. It's really quite amazing that we met. And it's like so nice when that happens, that you meet somebody. It's just wonderful synchronicity.
I absolutely agree. And you know this about me. We did not meet by accident. Um,
Right.
we met on purpose, and hopefully we can share with the world that purpose.
Thank you so much, John.